The cold northern wind rolled across Britain as the final echoes of Roman power began to fade. For nearly 4 centuries, the legions had stood like an iron wall, guarding this distant province from the chaos beyond the frontier. But now the storm was turning inward. Rome itself was collapsing, and Britain, once a jewel of the empire, was being abandoned to fate. Across the empire, enemies were closing in: Goths, Vandals, Huns, each one tearing pieces from Rome's dying body. Messages reached the governors in Britain. Rome could no longer send reinforcements. The legions stationed here were needed back home to defend the heart of the empire. The soldiers who once marched proudly along Britain's roads now prepared to leave, their shields worn, their faces uncertain. Along the windswept coast, Roman ships waited to depart. Legionaries boarded in silence. Knowing they were leaving behind people who had depended on them for generations, villagers watched from the shore, helpless, as the last symbol of Roman order drifted across the horizon. In 410 AD, Emperor Honorius made it official. Britain must defend itself. The empire would not return. The moment the legions disappeared, a great emptiness opened across the land, and from the northern highlands, a fierce force stepped forward to claim it. They were the Picts, warriors of the mountains and forests, painted in blue before battle, striking swiftly like ghosts from the mist. To the Romans, they were Picti, the painted people. To their enemies, they were a nightmare that never stopped coming. The Picts had resisted Rome for centuries. They knew the land better than anyone. Its steep ridges, hidden valleys, dark forests. Now with the imperial wall gone, they surged southward. Forts that once echoed with Roman commands now echoed with silence and fear. Abandoned watchtowers stood like broken teeth along Hadrian's wall, unable to stop the oncoming tide. Night raids began first. Villages awoke to the sound of horns and war cries. Flames lit the sky as Pictish warriors struck fast and vanished into darkness. Britain's local militias tried to resist, but without Roman discipline, they were overwhelmed. Roads crumbled, trade collapsed, and the great villas of the Roman elite fell into ruin. Roman culture slowly withered. Bathhouses emptied, markets died, stone buildings cracked and were swallowed by moss and earth. What had taken centuries to build vanished in a matter of decades. The old order was gone, and a new world was rising. In the northern highlands, Pictish power grew stronger than ever. Small tribes united into emerging kingdoms, mysterious, fierce, and deeply connected to the land. In wooden hill forts, Pictish chiefs gathered around firelight, planning raids and alliances. Their carved stones, decorated with symbols no one fully understands even today, stood as silent witnesses to a culture both beautiful and fearsome. Some Romano-Britons tried to rebuild a military force of their own, clinging desperately to the memory of Roman strength. But the legions were gone, and no imitation could match them. Time and again they faced the Picts, and time and again they fell. The age of Roman Britain was not simply collapsing. It was being swept away by a people who had never bowed to the empire. Yet the Picts did not build a vast empire of their own. Their power was fierce but scattered, their kingdoms united more by culture than central rule. Still, their presence shaped the destiny of the north. The later kingdoms of Alba and the early Scots would rise from their legacy, carrying forward the spirit of a people who refused conquest. As the sun set on the last traces of Roman authority, Britain stood at the threshold of a new era. The empire that once ruled the known world had retreated, wounded, and dying. But in the shadows of its decline, the Picts emerged stronger than ever, carving their mark into the history of the island. Rome's departure was not just a military withdrawal, it was the end of an age. And the rise of the Picts was a reminder that even the mightiest empires fall, while the wild and unbroken nations of the frontier continue their march through time. And as we close this chapter of Britain's forgotten past, remember, history survives because we keep it alive. If you enjoyed this journey through the fall of Roman Britain and the rise of the Picts, make sure to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it with others who love history. Your support helps bring more untold stories from the ancient world to life.